When my phone rings, one of us will have to answer it because it's David calling in. And our agenda, I have two additions to the agenda. One is right now, before we go into the agenda, we're going to hear from Dave Majeski, the fire chief. And under new business, number 3 is boxes. Yeah. So Dave.
Thank you for having me here this evening. I apologize, I made my notes on my phone. I usually think that's super unprofessional, but between when we spoke last night and I was in class all day today, so I was doing what I could.
That's fine.
So I've been speaking with Councilperson Gallagher for about a year now. I guess it happened.
Councilperson.
I'm sorry, that's chairperson. I immediately went with the C. Chairperson, my apologies, about trying to develop potentially some type of community program in Newcastle, specifically a community emergency response team, or CERT. You guys have published some articles probably this time last year into the winter about different preparedness topics. And I think this is a good opportunity for Newcastle. So I just kind of want to run through it real quick. And then ultimately, we're going to have some steps moving forward. But what is CERT? So CERT is a volunteer program that was founded in 1987 out in LA, actually by the Los Angeles Fire Department, in wake of it was their way to put citizen responders on the ground and essentially multiply their force in or during their earthquakes and things of that nature. In 1993, FEMA came in and said, this is a really great program. It works really well. We're going to take it. So they've taken some or all of the program. They've added some federal components to it, but they've moved along nicely with it. Like I said, it trains in basic disaster response skills. So fire safety, light search and rescue, team organization, and disaster medical operations. There's a bunch of different ways to do things. Newcastle County Emergency Management has a quote unquote CERT team overall, kind of, not really. They'll teach a bunch of classes and like it goes towards their CERT team certification. But what my thought process was is having one specifically for the city of Newcastle.
Sorry, that's
No,
a call-in member.
No, absolutely, that's quite all right.
Yeah. Yes.
So what do we need to do to I'm sorry, do you want me to pause?
Just for a second. Put it on speaker. You did?
I did not.
Oh, okay. David?
Yes.
Hi, it's Tish. I have you on speaker and right next to the recorder, and we are listening to Dave Majeski, who is from the fire department. He's the chief, and he just started talking about the CERT program.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
good evening.
So what are some steps moving forward? What do we need to do to kind of get our stuff together and make this happen? So first of all, engage our elected officials, right? So as much as I am here to talk about this tonight, I am not anybody recognized by the city of Newcastle officially. So we need to speak with
But everybody knows you.
yes. Yes. So we need to engage in our community government. And obviously that has been difficult this year because we have been in a constant state of turnover. So once we get settled and stabilized, we need to engage whomever the new city manager will be, the mayor, officially the council president, and the police chief, and move forward that, because all of these people are going to be stakeholders in this process. Ultimately, having the liability of the team fall under city government, and then, you know, to what extent everybody, who's going to be in charge, things like that. We would need to conduct a hazard analysis. So what do we want to address? You know, where we are in the East Coast, we get a little bit of everything. So hurricanes and nor'easters, snow and ice storms, excessive heat, man-made disasters, whether they be
Flooding.
Flooding, exactly. Whether they're terrorism, rail car incidents, whatever. You know, what are our hazards and how do we want to address them? And then what do we want this CERT team specifically to do? You know, are we looking for them to be involved in debris cleanup from storms and flooding? Are we looking for them to be in traffic control on one of the dozen 5Ks and separation days and things like that? Are we looking to entertain them for shelter management? Our local shelter for this area is William Penn High School. So are we looking for them to be assisting in that? Are we looking for them to do welfare checks in the absence of the police and fire department being able to do it, not on a daily basis, but post-event, right? So major flooding event, or God forbid, some type of other natural disaster, you know, these people are at least able to go door to door, make contact while we're handling other major emergencies, you know, and then they can come back and say, hey, like, here's a list of houses that need immediate attention or whatever. What do we want them to do? Again, identify program goals and then training needs. Newcastle County offers a basic and advanced cert class. You can take it just like anything else. You can take it as far as you want to go. The ICS system has classes within it. That ICS is Incident Command System. It's a part of the national framework for all of their response guides. They have a couple classes in there. There's things you can do that aren't officially like cert quote unquote classes, but all tie into that thing. Advanced medical training, different avenues like that, traffic management. And then, I'm sorry, I'm trying to push off all my notifications here. And then, you know, what are our needed resources? So obviously we're gonna need a place to meet, which is, we have this, we have the senior center, fire company. So there's avenues and options for that. That's not a big deal. Again, we're gonna have to determine who the leadership is and who they report to, how they are activated, things like that. And then ultimately, you know, we're probably gonna want to look at what our recruitment and retention aspect is and how we can integrate specifically like a workplace cert within city government, right? So no different than, you know, so I used to teach cert when I was in college, and we used to train workplaces and different neighborhoods, things like that. So, you know, I would look to probably say that whether we think it's common knowledge or not, we should probably look at training city employees to that level, or, you know, whomever wants to be involved. And then ultimately, once we figure all of that out, we're gonna need to identify a start date moving forward, or an official start date. Initially, I was thinking that there's gonna be a monetary commitment, and normally there is. I spoke with the new CERT program manager for Newcastle County today. He has funding available from the county and state level. They have the kits. So I don't know if anyone's done any research on this beforehand. When you complete a CERT class, normally you get some level of backpack, and it'll come with anything from like a hard hat and some gloves and a flashlight, to all of that, plus a whole lot of other items, wrenches and pry bars and masks, and more like N95 type masks, not like a respirator. And you can spend on a quick Google search last night, you can spend like as little as $35 or $40 or up to $120 on it. I don't know which ones the county and state are currently buying. I'm sure they're somewhere middle of the road or a little bit below. But as a continuing process, that's going to be something that, you know, that's going to be an ongoing cost if they ever cut that money or whatever as we bring in new people. So that's been my thought process on it. You know, I think there's an opportunity for it, because I think that, you know, we're always looking for volunteers at Goodwill, right? But not everybody wants to volunteer to actually go to fires, but they want to be educated, they want to be involved, whatever have you. They want to have a outside the hazard area or a cold zone job, something that they feel like they can help out with, or if nothing else, they can help themselves. You know, at the end of the day, if everybody could help themselves in a disaster or something like that, that immediately cuts the workload down on major, you know, on call volume. So that's about what I have. Again, like I said, you know, I was hoping to kind of coordinate once we get everybody into place in city government or into their new home, and we could kind of figure out what we want to do moving forward with it. But I do think it is a valiant effort maybe for us to undertake. I am more than willing to be as much a part of it as I can, up to and including teaching. That has been my thought process, so we've been trying to get this squared away for a year. And it seems like every time you guys have a meeting, I'm away or at work. And I don't go away often. So, do you have any questions for me?
So you're thinking maybe by the first of the year, we could really start to look at this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to take a sit down amongst all the players, because like I said, we're going to need to determine to what level of involvement and what level everybody feels okay with people participating. I want to put, I don't want to stand up here today and say, oh, we're going to develop a CERT team and one of their jobs is going to be, assisting with traffic, and then not to put words in his mouth, but for chief behavior, I say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that because of this reason, or I don't want them to deal with irate people or whatever. Like, that's not what their job is. So I think, like I said, we need to determine what their role and responsibility will be, and then help them move forward. But I think it's a good opportunity for be involved without being in fire gear or becoming a police officer, things like that. Yes.
Approximately how many people are in these groups?
So
Can you,
it can be as many or as little as you want. It is the ultimate answer.
okay,
You can have 10 or 15 people, you can have 100.
all right.
Because just like anything else, everyone's gonna have a varying level of engagement. So there's gonna be people who are very much involved in it, up to and including leadership positions, and there's gonna be people who are casual participants.
Mhm.
So you see that it's possible that somebody could take the training, but yeah, I'm willing to commit to helping out Women Penn if there's an emergency and that kind of thing I've done before, as a public health nurse. Certainly some of the medical healthcare stuff as nurses and physicians or whatever we can do. Traffic.
Well, and so it's everybody knowing their role, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what you feel comfortable with and what you would want to help out with. Just like Goodwill's no different. There's people that obviously I know are riding fire trucks, but then there's people that I call when I have a community event that maybe they do ride fire trucks, but maybe this is their niche, or when I need a certain project done, I call these people. So just like anything else, there's an opportunity across the board for the team, but it may be more geared towards a specific niche.
And do you see that before this all got started, we'd maybe do some community outreach to get people to know what we're talking about and to kind of encourage participation?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, I'm a big Google guy, not on my phone, but on everything else. I love Google Forms. So I would probably find a way to put some information out between if we get this off the ground, between the fire company, social media, the police department, and the city, and say, hey, if you're a city resident and you're interested in this, fill out this form. And we're just going to gauge interest, right? We don't need a whole lot of information, name, and a way to get a hold of you, telephone number, email, and
Right.
we can reach out to, after 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever, we can gauge that level of interest. If it's 2 or 3 people, then maybe we're spinning our wheels, maybe, but if it's 40 or 50 people, maybe we're on to something.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
I have experience with this way back.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, and I was involved in several, calls for, one was flooding.
Okay.
And the state was very, very involved. And so they came in and really didn't take over, but just provided a lot of support for what it was we needed to do
Mhm.
when we had to evacuate people to the high schools and stuff like that, and set up medical units and
Mhm.
whatever. And I guess that's still in place with the state?
So if there were to be an evacuation, obviously, depending upon the situation, we, the fire company or the police department, have resources we can call for to assist with that. Obviously, if we're moving to a shelter type situation, we're already at a higher level of operation, or an elevated, I'm not gonna say state of emergency, but that type, we're heading in that direction, disaster declaration, something like that.
Well,
So I'm sorry, so we're just, at that point, we're gonna be utilizing the resources that are available to us. And then, you know, I'm not asking, I don't think with this, I'm not asking anybody to meet anybody, say, hey, like, I'm gonna pick up and go to the shelter, meet me at Second and Chestnut, and we'll drive out there. You know, that's not the role that I'm asking anybody to fill. I think that we would be more of helping set up the equipment that's been delivered, beds or, you know, meal areas, or would have just managed the shelter, things like that, check people in and out, whatever have you, whatever's involved in that, from an emergency operations standpoint.
And at that time, when this actually went on and we had evacuated people to the high school, but we did, I mean, somebody did. The Red Cross was really involved and set up a whole lot of things like feeding people, setting up the cots, you know, making sure families got together if there were family members missing. So is that still in place for?
From my standpoint, dealing with the Red Cross is like getting a root canal,
Yeah, well, that's what I've heard.
and they are,
So,
they're difficult to get a hold of, they're difficult to deal with, and they are, I'm not gonna say too much about their response part because I'm not that familiar once I reach out to them, but they're difficult, and their numbers are waning.
well, that's what I am.
From
You just don't hear about them anymore.
Yeah, correct.
Well, I mean, you know, I was very involved at the.
Yeah,
time.
so for an example, you know, I mean, we call them to help people who've been displaced by fire.
Right.
Right.
When I call them and I give them, so obviously I'm initiating the call. Call them to how many people, pets, whatever, where we're at. And then they call me back and they'll say, hey, was this place actually on fire?
So that's.
No, I called you for my health, you know, like these people had nothing to do at 2 a.m. So.
What I'm hearing is they're much more or less involved or poorly organized or whatever the reason.
At least in this area, yes. So, it's just, you know, like I said, it's an opportunity for us to have our, I'm not gonna say help our own, but neighbors helping neighbors
Right.
is easier to coordinate than not. And then selfishly, you know, it's an opportunity for the fire company as well, right? So the age frame on this is, you know, you can start at 13. So I think the way they break it down, 13 to 15, if you have a parent or guardian taking the class with you or taking the training with you. 15 to 17 is with parent or guardian approval. And then 18 and on is, obviously you're an adult, you can consent to your own, whatever you want to do. So, you know, selfishly, as we go through that, as someone develops an interest for firefighting or EMS or law enforcement, we can funnel those people in the directions that they need to go within our own community versus leaving them flounder and not know where to go or what to do, you know? And some people would never know they have an interest in it if they haven't done this.
Well, I don't know anything about the population statistics, but it seems to me, and I think I've mentioned this before, that this is an aging community. And we have a lot more older people than we had, but we have some very, you know, cooperative, energetic, want to get involved, younger people too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good opportunity for folks to get involved in helping their own community, or at least if nothing else, if they take the training once and never come back, excuse me, they've been educated on how to help themselves.
Yeah, so there's a little PR to do here, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want a whole bunch of 70-year-olds, but.
Or,
Are the surpluses are the same that's being taught by Newcastle County? Is this your goal? And then it's going to be tailored for our town? Is that what you're thinking?
The third class in general is a generic, it's the federal.
Okay.
So, the gentleman I spoke to today works for Newcastle County, in the, Office of Emergency Management. And so they would be the lead on educating, at least through the initial parts. If this takes off, we could absolutely develop our own instructors, or instructor corps, and then they could be supplemental to us. they meaning Newcastle County, or we could continue to lean on Newcastle County to be instructors on an annual basis. And then from a leadership standpoint of whoever's going to lead the team, obviously there's other avenues. There's, so we could deal with Delmarva Gas and Electric directly, or we could deal with the fire school, Delaware State Fire School directly, things like that, to really help us further our education.
Okay.
I assume there's some insurance issues involved.
I didn't read that far into it. I know there is a section specifically on the CERT homepage when it talks about starting a team about addressing liability. I think what it comes down to, if I would ultimately have to put money on it, is at the end of the day, you're not deputized, you're not certified, you're not anything like that. So I would imagine it would still fall under a civilian caregiver, no different than if you stopped in the street and did CPR on someone. It's the hold harmless clause.
Okay.
So, but that is absolutely something that we need to remember. And I would want to make sure that city government was okay with whatever level of possible liability was understood and either undertaken, or that'll be what puts a thumb on the project. So, any other questions?
You have another meeting at 6:30 and another one at 7.
So, again, thank you for your time. This is something that we've been chatting about for, like I said, a year, or just about. So, I'm looking forward to moving forward with it potentially, or at least seeing what the level of interest is throughout the rest of city government. I know I myself, the fire company, we're here to help along the way with whatever we need to do to support it if it's something that we feel viable.
I think the Board of Health would probably be interested in supporting it. I know we've talked about taking that county course, but kind of been waiting to see what happens here.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, if nothing else, it's a great opportunity to get out and meet your neighbors and be involved in some level of volunteerism. So it's a way for people to be involved without having to be on a committee. So I know that I've put that off for years. So now I'm trapped.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
We really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It was just luck that we talked and
Yes.
come tonight. So,
Yes, I do have some business cards here. I'll leave them for you all.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, phone, email, whichever. So,
Thank you so much.
alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I
Yes.
hate to speak and run, but I do speak and run. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. His time was limited, so I guess now, do you need us to go around the table? So, or do you already have everybody's here and David's here by phone? And we need to get an approval of the minutes from a July 25th meeting. And I saw them, and I think there was maybe one thing that I asked them to change, which was done, and hopefully you've all had an opportunity to read it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sending it.
Actually, that comes from the city,
Oh, okay.
from the city folks, yeah.
Well, I
So,
motion to approve.
okay, we have a motion to approve. Thank you, awesome. And report from the building instructor and inspector, Furio isn't here, and I don't have a report from him, so I hope it's not a confusion about the change in date. Old business, we've been talking about the playground committee and the playground and just the sort of Board of Health kind of from a health perspective interest. We haven't found haven't managed to get anybody to come and talk to us, but I happen to see that Brian Mattaway is here. probably just learning a little bit about the different committees in town. But he,
Brian, the one running for council.
Yes.
Hello there. You knocked on our door, but by the time we got there, you had left.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's our fault. So good to meet you.
so, you know, I guess our questions were, I haven't been down there yet. My grandson has been. He said there was a lot of mulch. His father's a landscaper, so he would, you know, and I saw pictures of him happily riding the, I don't know, the zip line and on the swings. So, that's pretty cool.
Gallagher, would you like me to
Um,
step up or?
Yeah.
Is that helpful for you, Kathy, in terms of, okay. And usually you give your address.
Yeah.
too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Mataway. I live at 628 Delaware Street. I am a member of the Playground Subcommittee. So I'm happy to provide any updates where possible for you all and for the record. And if there's any questions that I'm unaware of, I can certainly take that back to the chair of the subcommittee in the city and follow up with you all. The update in respect to the playground at Battery Park is as follows. On Tuesday, October the 10th, at 4 o'clock, there was a ribbon cutting ceremony. Participants included stars of the show, children of our community of all ages. They were so excited about the new playground equipment that they didn't want to get off for the sake of the ceremony. Our own Miss Jo Viola was present there as well, and joined by Senator Nicole Poore, Representatives Mimi Minor Brown, Representative Franklin Cook. There was a host of representation from the city, from parents, grandparents. There were some people from the business community who were there. And then just some onlookers, people that just wanted to come and see what was going on. So that the playground is up and running. Presently is available for all ages. Again, this is phase 1, so there is hopes of a phase 2 for some additional equipment. We certainly want to give some kudos to Rick Delgado at the city and his public works staff. They came in and finished the border building of the playground. First was started by some representatives from the city, from our neighborhood. I helped with some of that, but I didn't realize how hard it was. And the professionals came in and did a great job. They also laid the mulch down. In respect to the mulch, I do know that there are certain pieces of equipment or apparatuses that have different requirements in respect to the mulch depth or density. And my understanding is that they leveled it all off and make sure everything is fine on that front. Because of the various different levels of the mulch requirements, we understand that the mulch has to be replaced on an annual basis.
Wow.
Just to ensure the proper safeguards are in place. The vendor for the equipment is a company called Compin. And of course, they have all different types of equipment, but they also do surfaces. And I understand that there is going to be some ongoing research to see if there's some other surfaces outside of mulch that are more permanent and can still provide the required safeguards.
Yeah, I think at one point there was a playground somewhere that had ground up pieces of old tires,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the issues were with that. Well, I don't know, it's a little rubbery, spongy.
But you don't know what the tires are made of.
Well,
There has been some of
Doesn't
that.
matter.
There has been some of that with the tires and some of like the artificial surfaces getting up in people's faces and things of that nature. But I do know that is something that they're exploring. with our environment at Battery Park, one of the inherent concerns is the leveling and then also flooding or water that has to be managed and mitigated. That might not be as applicable in other areas.
Yeah, because a good flood could really float that mulch right out of there, couldn't it?
Sure.
I'm a little confused because I know that there's a committee of parents who help choose the playground equipment. I talked to several of them and where do they fit into all of this?
Yes, ma'am. Great question. So, the new Battery Park playground, if you will, was kickstarted by local residents, mothers, fathers, grandparents, business owners, or just people that know what mentally, physically, emotionally playing outside can do for children's maturity. And so they had a desire to get more equipment and new equipment at the playground. Knowing the intricacies of our city, they had to navigate through local government, through trustees, et cetera. And that parent group is called Encore, which is an acronym for Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition. They are in the finalization stages of forming a 501c3 and hope to continue efforts.
And didn't they apply and were awarded some private funds from some other
Yes, ma'am.
entity? I don't know what it was.
DENREC awarded some grants.
Okay.
There was also a instrumental partnership with Senator Nicole Poore
Okay.
out of Dover in respect to the bond bill and the allocation of dollars. At the ribbon cutting ceremony, there was a representative from DENREC who encouraged Encore vis-a-vis the subcommittee to apply for additional dollars in subsequent upcoming years. I believe that's the plan.
So Encore is sort of a separate starting entity that is
Yes.
working on that. And I thought that was wonderful because it was sort of the parents who would really, have something to contribute because it's their families
Yes,
that are participating. Okay,
yes.
that's really great.
And so, Ms. Joe, Health Board, what transpired was the local residents at the grassroots level did the research, did the work, and then presented it to trustees, presented it to city solicitor, presented it to city administrator, city council, et cetera. City council and the administration have been great, and they've been supportive. There were several council members who went on playground visits on their own personal time to kind of see what new equipment is out there, to kind of see it for themselves. And they have also been supportive in, for lack of better words, deputizing some of those same parents and forming a playground subcommittee. So that was an action that was done at a city council meeting. And then I guess I can say President Souter, Suzanne Souter, recently extended the term for the playground subcommittee for, I believe, another year, running through the summer or early fall of, I guess, 2025, I believe.
There's a lot of self-starters involved in this and, from the ground roots. I think it's really great.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's something that the whole community can be uplifted by.
I have two comments. One is I thank the committee and appreciate that they made efforts to make this handicapped accessible. As a nurse who used to work with high-risk infants and children, that's important.
Yeah.
And I know I saw something in the weekly that you have a meeting coming up on 17th, 18th, something like that of November. And that they're gonna be, they were asking people in some certain areas to give input. And one of those is Bull Hill, where I live, and I am unfortunately gonna be not available whatever night it is. I'm not. But we appreciate that you're looking beyond just Battery Park.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that question. If I could just add on to that. In doing the research, and it's been a total team effort. And I have to kudos to everyone, but in particular, the chairwoman of the playground subcommittee, Suzanne Swift.
Yeah.
Who has done a yeoman's work. That's a word. And so as a part of the research and community engagement, we know that we are a city of neighborhoods. And the playground subcommittee did not want to push on equipment to satellite parks like Bull Hill, Suzie Park, Buttonwood, etc. And Ms. Tisch and the board, the ask was to solicit local residents who live in the Bull Hill area, in the Dobbinsville area, etc., and where all these other satellite parks are, to come on board and to have direct impact as to the equipment that is selected for that said playground. So that's the ask. And one of the things that was really exciting to hear was everyone has a place to be a kid at heart. But we even received some feedback from some of our adults who said, we can have adult playgrounds too.
That was my next
And
comment.
so we are excited and hopeful that this outdoor play space and spaces get redone and are not just for our children, but can be for our active adults as well.
A couple of the county parks have a kind of adult exercise spaces that
Yeah.
maybe you're already familiar with. I think Del Castle and Glasgow both have them, and they're pretty simple structures.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not cheap because nothing is. But and they have little signs that tell you like what you can do with them, and sometimes they can go for more than one thing, like a low bar can be for balance, or it can be to do push-ups off of, or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, that was something that as a committee, we've talked about before.
Yeah. We've even done some research and we've seen, national organizations like AARP, for example, and how they've at times partnered with communities that have senior populations to get some of that outdoor space. So I definitely think that there's some momentum there, and we're hopeful. And then finally, I do want to go back to Battery Park to mention something, if I could. Post the October 10th ribbon cutting, there have been some signage or signs placed at Battery Park that indicate preferred age level in respect to equipment.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So,
Yeah.
we did want to make that known.
Well, thank you. I know you didn't think you were gonna be doing that, but I saw you come in and thought, ooh.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Let me just see. David, have you been able to hear some of that?
Yes, I have, the whole
Okay.
thing, actually.
Okay, great. Do you have any comments?
I was very impressed that initially they came back to city council saying that they needed $1 million for the Battery Park restoration of the playground. And, but you've managed to do it in a very economical way, and I was very impressed with that.
Thank you, thank you. Again, it was a team effort, by a lot of, people that love and care about our community.
And just so you know, Brian, that's Dr. David Bechtel, who's on the committee but wasn't able to be here tonight. So he called in.
Yeah, Brian, we met, you were canvassing a few days ago. We met on the street.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
just had one other question. I think it will come up later, but I was gonna make a question or comment. Yes, is there a public comment section?
There are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, update on articles. You may have seen that the Edgar Allan Poe article, David's article was in the weekly, finally. The other one that has been written is mine on Lyme or tick-borne diseases, and it's just too long, and you know, with surgery and everything, I have not broken it into two yet.
Did you send the draft around?
Pardon?
You didn't send the draft around yet.
I didn't, I
Oh.
said I would, but it hasn't, I was,
That's okay.
after we
It's okay.
said
I'm just
that it
checking if I
needed to
missed
be,
you.
no, after we said it needed to be split into two, I figured there's no sense sending it until I split it into two.
Right. Oh, yeah. I just.
So that's why, and you know, I'll get to it, but honestly, at this point, it's probably better to hold it off until spring because, you know.
Be the time.
And I think if you look at, you know, the mosquito control measures that we're gonna have to look at again. And maybe I'll get myself in gear to make some calls earlier. In the spring, just so we have some sense of what that is that they're spraying when they do. I never saw them spray this year. I never saw it.
We missed it.
Yeah, but
Maybe they didn't-
somebody here at the last meeting said they had, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And I always used to see when they sprayed. Because I know I always wondered,
What is
what
that?
is that stuff?
Well, at least I haven't, well, there's a couple times, I might have missed it. I said sure, but I don't think they did Battery Park. They might have had to do other areas,
Well,
but they mow Battery Park all the time. So, so I think, you know, they don't really need to. There's not a lot of standing water there.
oh, and just one other comment back to the playground, I'm sorry. The mulch that needs to be replaced annually, I heard through a fairly reliable source that mulch was like $12,000. So that's quite a
big
bit of
chunk.
mulch.
To the city does that,
I think the trust
the trust
paid
does
for
that.
the mulch, am I right, Brian?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think I heard it from a trustee.
Yeah, no, that-
So
Put it in the budget, right?
anyway, I just wanted to mention that because that's a lot to be done
Yes.
every year. So if there is an alternative somehow, it might be more cost effective in the long run, but it's a good way to get started. Under new business, the proposal to update city code regarding Board of Health membership requirements. If you recall, a couple of meetings ago, we did mention this, and that this is particularly regarding the requirement for a position on the board. And right now we have one, so that's great. But there was concern that long-term, we might have problems with that. And I know that person doesn't have to be from the city of Newcastle, but trying to find, you know, a physician who would be willing to do that is probably gonna be hard. So, I just wanted to check with you guys to see if it's okay if we start to look at that, and I'll make sure that you get copies of the part of the code that is pertinent to that, and so we can start to craft wordsmith it.
Yeah, and I have read that, and when it was written, it was really dealing with a lot of diseases that were like diphtheria and types of things that, what we have now is COVID. So you might want to think about that, and we're in our second go round with the COVID. So I don't know,
But I remember when I got on the Board of Health and I asked what the Board of Health, how the Board of Health was involved during COVID. And I was told that you weren't.
that's true. That's true, because it's sort of been a national thing.
Yeah.
And immunizations are still available for the second go round. So,
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we take that off altogether.
Oh,
I
no,
think
yeah.
it should be
Mhm.
broadened. Certainly a physician, but nurses, and there's some other medical personnel, public health personnel, somebody with a master's in public health would be ideal to serve
Yeah.
on a committee like this.
Absolutely.
So I think we could make it broader, and that would make it easier in the future.
To get somebody.
mhm.
I have nothing against physicians, just so you know.
Hired one.
Or retired ones, exactly.
Not.
They light up our lives. So I will make sure that that part of the code gets sent to everybody, so you can just think about it. I don't know how detailed we want to be. That at least one person on the board should have, I don't know that we want to start listing public health nurses, school nurses, exactly, to that level of detail, because I think it might constrain us, but background in healthcare or public health, that kinds of thing, I think is broad enough to cover it. I'll send out.
So right now, I think licensure for the physician is needed, and I don't see what that's necessarily.
Right. How do you mean that? Did they actually get a copy of your license?
Yes, at one time that was true.
Right,
Now, the whole medical situation has somewhat changed, in terms of who delivers what, but they are working on that, because it's sort of vague. But nurse practitioners are being employed a lot more.
Yeah.
And
NPAs.
NPAs, so, and they're cheaper, so I hate to say that, but I mean, their salary requirements are, so, and it works.
yeah,
Yeah, so. I don't think we need, well, we can look at what the requirements are for the Board of Health and decide.
right. I mean, right now, I think that's the only thing that's
Right. Yeah.
identified, the only position that's identified.
Yeah.
Is the physician.
So you're going to send us a copy of the city code,
Yeah, well, and probably just the part that relates to this,
what the requirements are.
right,
Somewhere.
right.
All right.
I mean, actually, I think the Board of Health is in good shape right now,
Yeah.
so, it's not anything to do with that, it's just being forward-looking, kind of. Sir, I think we got a good,
Mhm.
feel for
I
that.
do encourage people, if you have any interest in having done it, to take a cert course. You probably all have. I mean,
I
I
think
kind
I
of
did it.
and, you know, I haven't done it in a long time, so I haven't really upgraded that. But the state and the county used to give really good courses.
Yeah.
I
And,
think they still do.
okay,
They do, they offer, I think it was offered twice.
Yes.
Last year
Yeah.
it's in, like in Newcastle
yeah,
County.
I think the last one I took was an online course like that.
And I think what they do now is it's about 12 hours of free. And then a weekend, like a Friday night and most of a Saturday,
Right.
is what they're doing.
Well, and they used to emphasize age groups, you know, elderly and pediatric, because those were the ones that sort of fell through the cracks, you know, in terms of
In
capability to
emergencies.
deal with them. But, I don't know what the answer now is from an administrative point of view of the state or the county, or for that matter, of the federal government, you know, I really don't know.
Yeah, and my sense is that David is looking at something a little bit broader than the basic cert,
Yeah.
which is fine from a ability
Well, it's
to-
interesting he said that because I got all of that equipment, it's still in my house. And they really spent money on that, you know, hard hats and all kinds of stuff. So, I don't know whether they need to do that again or. I don't know,
Yeah,
it's really, difficult to say.
it'll be interesting to see as it evolves, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad to see that he hasn't forgotten about it and he was just
Yeah, it was good.
kind of waiting, and that was pretty strategic on his part, you know, because to go in with something like that when we're sort of in an uproar between people
Mhm.
on city council,
Oh, mhm.
it makes sense. So, I know that I'll be interested in following up with it, and I think you are as well, and the rest of you can think about that or not.
I actually found out what it that I had to cancel. We had to leave, we had to go to Pittsburgh.
Right.
So I have to-
Right.
So yeah, I'll check into that again.
Yeah, I looked just the other day and it wasn't, that the dates for 2024 weren't
They're
out
not
yet. And I think if it looks like this is really gonna move forward, I'll probably wait and do it here. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And the only other thing we have on here for tonight is a new addition, which is just. Yeah, there's a lot of foxes in town. All of a sudden. But, and like I said earlier, you know, I think we saw a coyote.
Well, I don't know about the walk. And yeah, I can see the tree. I was gonna walk over there because, guy was helping me in the yard today. He's the one that really picked up on this, that this fox was kind of hiding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I've seen foxes in that area before, and I think they're all up and down the marsh in your area. So they're sort of endemic here. They live here. There are neighbors. They're usually very well behaved. But, and I don't think we have to worry about rabies, but you always have to have it in the back of your mind.
No, but that's why I wanted
Yeah.
the rabies article. I was, you know, I called and said, could we really get it in? Because, you know, we've got foxes around
We
here,
have foxes.
Yeah.
plus a potential coyote. Well,
Yeah.
was way.
The foxes? I'm sure they do bother the geese.
They what?
The geese, but you don't see them.
That would be sad, wouldn't it?
But I.
That's how I feel about those geese.
Yeah, mean. The geese are mean. But anyway.
I don't think they eat things like that, though.
No.
I think they're like hamsters and rats and stuff, but the coyote, however.
All right.
So I don't know what to, you know, what we can do about it, except to recognize that they are our neighbors and they're out there. And, you know, that certainly if we see them behaving in really odd ways, that we should call somebody. Who'd you call?
Good luck with that.
Animal, yeah, animal
Well,
control.
we had an issue with a called and because it was out all the time and 2 or 3 yards. Oh, yeah, tell me about it. But wait, nobody, the state wasn't gonna do it, nobody was gonna take care of this. And trapping this raccoon who wanted to be my neighbor.
Yeah,
Really. So I thought, well, you don't pay rent, you're gonna be evicted.
I just knew it wasn't Mr. Rogers. You be neighbor. Is there anything else that any of the board members?
Well, I don't know if this is a Board of Health thing or not, but I know everybody has seen the traffic situation and how people are driving through town. I came out, just tonight, I came out of Fremont Street and made a left onto 6th. Somebody came by at about 45, the stop sign there, and totally ran it.
Yeah.
At 45 miles an hour, and there was a lady raking the leaves, and I said to her, "Did you see that?" She said, "Oh, it's so sad." She said, "You wouldn't believe the stuff I see."
Yeah, sure.
We have younger people and with children moving into the neighborhood. What can be done? Because it is a safety issue. It's a health issue. Brian, do you have anything to say about that as far as council? Well, potential council, but I mean, it's become more and more and more of an issue. I did call on 7th Street. I had the police come and they do come. But that lasts for a couple, they're busy. They can't be sitting there,
That's right.
But yeah, it's a very much a safety, and it's getting worse and worse.
Well, there's 4-way stop at 6th in Delaware now. I mean,
Yeah.
and people,
It's on that too.
you've got to be very careful because
Yeah.
not everybody pays attention to
Will
that.
they put a light in it eventually?
That light was there.
Well, I know. They bring it back.
Trouble, I think, was they wanted to put, the kind of light that comes up from the sidewalk and arches over, that's what they're using now, and that kind of doesn't fit in with
Yeah, right.
Newcastle, but they won't replace in kind,
So
so.
I don't know if this is a council issue or a Board of Health issue, but something has to be done. Because we live in this community, and it's not fair for those of us who live here and have to deal with that. My granddaughter, I won't let her out by herself, even in the front yard. I'm scared to death that she's gonna get hit,
Well, and there are so many people that drive down to the wharf, and I don't know how you're gonna prevent that because it's a very popular place. But the police are there a lot. And so, we had a tractor trailer, wander into that area this week.
Oh.
And he wasn't supposed to be there and
GPS.
I think what he was able to get at.
it took time, but, the police came and they, redirected him, but it was
Well, I'm seeing
16
for them on 7th Street,
Yeah,
they're not
and-
supposed to be, because it's not a state street.
they're not
And that-
supposed to come down.
Well, the street's gonna get torn up, but
Yeah.
even like 5th Street,
Yeah.
6th Street is a state street, but that poor street, I
Well,
I
they,
would not wanna live on that street.
Well, I think the GPSs are, some,
Directing them.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're trying to get to Route 9 and they're coming
Yeah.
down Andrew Street.
and they end up forever.
Everybody's out
Yeah.
to direct them.
Yeah.
One time I just said to the driver, why don't you just go down 5th Street? And try to get into the library.
And I know there used to be signs up, I don't remember now if they're having signs. Because maybe they couldn't enforce it or something.
there are police coming into town out at like between 6th and 7th there,
Very,
Yeah, and there is a sign that says no trucks, no vehicles over a certain weight except for local delivery.
well, there you go.
And of course, the local deliveries to the restaurants are fairly large trucks.
Yeah.
When they come into the square there, that's right, where they're there.
They're there, and then if they don't turn around and go back out Delaware Street, but try and go down 2nd Street and then
Okay.
turn on Harmony, that
Oh
can get
my God.
ugly. Yeah, I don't know, except I keep telling the police when it happens.
Well, it's, coming through is one thing, but they don't follow the limits. They're driving at 40, 50 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and it's just like Indianapolis Speedway. And that's what's so frustrating.
Yeah,
Sometimes when I'm there, I'll say,
go ahead.
Keep the traffic out of town, but I haven't heard that anyone has really been pushing for those recommendations. Plus, I had suggested a short bypass that could be easily done to Route 9 South that would keep cars out of town. But even Wilmette didn't take that up. So, I had suggested it.
where did you suggest it?
So, from the south part of town near where they're putting up the fishing
The fishing pier?
Mhm.
pier, yeah, you could actually divert Route 9 straight up to 273 from there, pretty easy.
Hmm.
So
Across the marsh.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to keep traffic from driving through town.
Mhm. Where did you suggest it, like at a council meeting or?
Well, Wilmapco had a couple meetings of their own.
Okay.
With community, people in the community. And so I had recommended that, but it never showed up in any of their literature. But they did also have another suggestion on Route 9 coming into town from the north to having a circle that diverted cars toward toward 273 instead of coming directly through town on 6th Street. So, and I think that would help too, to keep cars from rushing through town and trying to get south on Route 9.
Okay. So that was a suggestion you said?
That was a suggestion from Wilmapco, yes.
Uh-huh.
And they had drawings and plans, but I haven't heard anything that would, if there was any interest in that. And of course, it would be DelDOT, and I think that's the problem. So we don't have that much influence with DelDOT.
Well, thank you for that input. That's a little hopeful anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that where Chestnut Street comes out into Sixth, and then you go across to the ferry cutoff, there is some kind of plan where
That's where they're planning on putting like a circle there.
yeah, but they had a different name for it, Dutch something or,
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
right.
that's right, I remember that.
yeah. And I looked at it and couldn't envision what they were gonna do, but it's there are times when I don't leave town that way. Usually that's our default way to get out now, and there are times when I won't do it because people are in such a hurry to get home, if it's coming home from work, and it just gets really ugly there. So, yeah, it is a certainly a risk to the health of the population because of how fast some people go. Okay, public comments?
Hello again, Brian Mataway, 628 Delaware Street. First, would like to thank the Board of Health, you all individually and collectively, for the work that you've done in your professions to contribute to community, but also moreover what you've done individually and collectively here where you reside. I know that working in healthcare and those related fields are very stressful, and you all should be commended for doing that, but then also choosing to continue to do it in your time off. So as a local resident, I just want to say thank you. October the 28th, 2023 is National First Responders Day. And many of you are first responders or have been. So I'd like to, again, thank you. I know Chief had to go, but certainly I'm thankful for his leadership and the leadership of Chief McCabe locally, and the brave men and women that serve on our police force, paramedics, and Goodwill Fire Company. So I just ask everyone on Friday, 28th, to stop and pause. If you see a first responder, to let them know you appreciate what they do. If you have a minute, stop in to the police station or at the fire hall and wish them good tidings. I think that what Chief Majewski presented in respect to the CERT program is a good initiative. And I certainly, as a local resident, would volunteer to help participate in some way. My 3-year-old son, Caleb, would probably want to ride in the fire trucks, but I know there's age requirements for that, so he probably and then I'll certainly mention it to him, but I think it's a great idea to pull in neighborhood, but then also to use it as a recruiting tool. Perhaps they, whoever that is, could possibly maybe look at some of the high schools to identify maybe some high schoolers who may have a desire to have a career path as a first responder. It could be a great segue for them getting around community, around men and women who do it, to kind of maybe do almost like a little job shadowing, if you will, in some way. And then finally, I'm in agreement that traffic is a safety issue. It's a quality of life issue. And it's something that we, as all stakeholders, need to try to find ways to mitigate. I know that there's several different entities involved, whether it's WMACO, the state, the county, et cetera. I would like to see our local Newcastle contingent be a little bit more active at the county level. For example, going to county council meetings and pressing them on the issues that matter to us. Of course, leveraging our friends in Dover as well. But I think that we can really try to flex our muscle, if you will, as an organized body in respect to the matters that are most pressing to us. GPS is definitely a thing that we have to try to work against. To wherever possible, perhaps we can reduce some of the speeds on some of the roads that are our roads. Maybe as opposed to 25 miles an hour, maybe we reduce it to 10 or 15. It really kind of cut through, communities. And then finally, maybe perception might help in some way. I've seen some communities where people, get signs that say, hey, my children live here, or our children live here. Perhaps some type of grassroots initiative to that end may do something. And then finally, we can try to work with Chief McCabe and his staff to possibly set up maybe some, trying to think of the word.
Speed traps.
The coffee is wearing speed traps. We should try to do some type of physical deterrent as well.
They do. If you call them, they will come.
Yeah.
But like I said, they can't come for days and days and days. They'll come
Yeah.
for as much as time will allow.
Yeah.
They're very good about that, but
Yeah.
it's a temporary thing, but yeah.
But this definitely is something that we all have to try to tackle. And I would champion citizen engagement through workshops where everyone can kind of come in a room and present ideas and try to collaborate on how we can work together to create some results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and for helping the discussion here.
Yeah.
They should have a big sign on I-95 that says, slow down, the beach isn't going anywhere. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. I love them. some of them are it's on Route 1.
Yeah, Route 1, yeah.
Yeah, and it's true, people are always in a hurry. And what we're working against here, what's working against us is there's so many more housing developments down off of Route 9 and in the Middletown, Odessa area
Yeah.
that didn't used to be there. You know, and everybody's trying to get home as quickly as they can. So. Okay. So if there are no other public comments, because there are no other publics here tonight. And if everybody else is done, I'll call the, entertain a, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, David, for hanging in there with us. Sure, we appreciate
Take care,
that,
David.
you did that for us. Thanks.